Hello, Habs fans. Welcome to this edition of the Habs Fan Forum. I'm Ben Danke, your host, and here at the Habs Fan Forum, this, of course, is where us fans get to have our voices heard. Today, I'm going to be talking about the expansion draft, the excitement of the draft, and the nerve-wracking week that led up to it. Montreal Canadiens fans will know what I'm talking about because wow, it was just such a doozy of a week. Before I get into that, as you know, the Habs Fan Forum is a proud part of Rocket Sports Media and the Hockey Podcast Network, and proudly sponsored by DraftKings. DraftKings is the leader in daily fantasy sports, and with them, they literally make payday every day. Huge cash prizes are up for grabs when you set your daily fantasy lineups. They've paid out over $7 billion, yes, $billion, across all sports to users, which is insane. And right now, if you download the DraftKings app and use the promo code THPN, you can potentially win some free prizes too. All right, let's talk about this expansion draft because the build-up was crazy this week, and especially for the Montreal Canadiens. Us fans were probably on the tip of our seats for 5 days ever since they let out that actual protection list on Saturday when they left Shea Weber, Carey Price, Jonathan Drouin, Phil Deneau, CALE, FLEURY, Brett Kulak. The protection list availability of the Montreal Canadiens definitely put you on end. And you knew why they protected some players. Like, obviously, they didn't want to lose Sherratt. Obviously, they didn't want to lose Allen. But wow, that was a nerve-wracking week nonetheless. I will say this, so before I get into how this affects the Montreal Canadiens, because let's be real here, that's what we all want to talk about. That production quality of this first ESPN broadcast, oof, that was rough. The NHL had and ESPN had a huge opportunity here to stand out. Like, this was a buzz. I had so much fun. Mock expansion list, just analysis. Every team was involved. Every fan of hockey was involved, and you had all eyes on this week. And that's what you come up with? I mean, the outdoor scenery was beautiful, but the outdoor production quality was rough. There was mic problems. It just wasn't a great show, to be honest. And come on, Dominic Moore and Chris Fowler, whew, that was tough. They were reading cards and still getting things wrong. So, all in all, this was nothing like Vegas. And I know they don't want to be like Vegas and have the exact kind of show. They were going for a different vibe. But the actual show production was eh. Nonetheless, all that aside, we now have a new NHL franchise, the Seattle Kraken, and they're taking form. So let's talk about how this draft affected the Montreal Canadiens. First of all, thank God we didn't lose Carey Price. Ugh. All week, I was just almost angry at the fact that we could lose him for nothing. I know it was a calculated gamble putting him unprotected, but to me it was reckless because they had to consider it. They had the money. They just spent $650 million on this franchise. What's an $11 million bonus and a $10 million a year under their cap was definitely doable. So they could afford it, and they had the green light. At the end of the day, they chose not to go with the risk of the older goalie and Carey Price and the longer term still left as an agreement. For my money, I would have taken him. But that's maybe because I watch Carey Price every year. So, nonetheless, happy they didn't take him. Now, we would have been lucky, and I would have loved if they had either picked Deneau or Drouin, but that was high hopes, especially with Deneau because of him being an unrestricted free agent. That was unlikely. And with Drouin, there was still some risk up there too. And we with Shea Weber being exposed, that one still, again, reckless, but I wasn't as worried about them taking Shea Weber. He is older, he still has that contract, and he did a lot of that injury news. You just had to think that was very authentic, right? So he could potentially retire or be on your LTIR all year next year. Who knows with that? So they decided to go with the young RFA defenseman, CALE FLEURY, young developing piece. Sucks to lose him for free. Yeah, we had to lose a player. The Habs had to lose someone. So at the end of the day, if that's who it is, I can live with it. But unfortunately, I'm actually just a pretty big fan of CALE FLEURY. I know he wasn't cracking the lineup yet, and he was still developing, and who knows if he even would have been a top 4 or a top 6 piece. We're not sure yet, but I just enjoyed watching him. The kid hit hard, he skated hard, he played hard, he's a good personality. I was a fan, so sorry to see him go. I guess the blow is softened a little bit by the fact that he could be playing with his brother. Well, he is on the same team as his brother, Hayden Fleury, selected from Anaheim. But that's pretty cool to be on this, potentially the same, I don't know if they could be on the same pairing, but at least in the lineup, they could be playing together in the future. Hayden and CALE Fleury together. That'd be pretty cool. Play with your brother. All right, let's wrap up by talking a little bit about this Seattle Kraken team. I'm a little underwhelmed by the whole draft, to be honest. They obviously picked some great pieces. The D looks scary. They are big. They obviously followed a little bit of that blueprint of the Clydesdales that we saw in Montreal, because they got some big D-man down that top four, even the top six. Like, some of those guys are heavy players. So they went with a strong D, and they got a pretty young developing goalie set. A couple goalies that I just don't know why they passed on, especially Kakinen from the Minnesota Wild, and Carey Price, of course, from Montreal we talked about. In their forward group, like, they have some good depth pieces, don't get me wrong, and they picked, Jordan Eberle, who can score, but who's going to be scoring their goals? Like, and also, where's their identity? I know they didn't want these bloated contracts, but how do you not pick a Tarasenko, a Voracek, a JVR, amongst others? There was even guys like Nito Niederreiter, who I thought could add some solid scoring punch up front. And they've decided to hold back this cap space. They got like $29 million available, and they came out from the beginning saying that was, cap space was king. So I get it. They're gonna do a lot more. A little bit like boring that they didn't launch any deals with this, and it's come out that teams weren't as reckless as they were with Vegas. They weren't making the same mistakes, but I'm surprised we had to wait till 1 p.m. the next day to see any actual trades announced, and also the lack of deals. So all in all, a little bit underwhelmed on Ron Francis. I'm not sure what he's going for here. I kind of know the identity, and I know he wants to use that cap space that he has available, but we're going to see. One way or another, they're going to be a tough team to play against, especially with that D corp. So, all right, that's it for this episode of the Habs Fan Forum. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, like down below, tell your friends, share the video, and subscribe to get future episodes. There's tons of content coming out. We got the draft coming up. We got free agency coming up. Lots of things in the works, and you can follow all Habs for the best Montreal Canadiens coverage. All right, thanks again for watching. I'm Ben Dankey, and of course, woo! Go Habs, go, baby!